Hey, what's up guys? It's Enigma Hood. And today I'm going to talk about Atheism Plus. Atheism Plus has gotten a real bad rap. It's been getting a lot of negative press, and a lot of negative rumors have been surrounding Atheism Plus, and I wanted to set the record straight. All the rumors that you heard about Atheism Plus, unfortunately, are spot fucking on. They really are a bunch of censoring fanatical zealots. I was hoping it wasn't true, and you know, as a skeptic, I didn't want to I didn't want to take the word of others. I didn't want to just rely on hearsay. I needed to see it. I needed to experience it firsthand to know if they really were as bad as what people were saying about them, as what people were alleging, and yeah, it's true. every last bit of it. In fact, they might be worse in some cases, but I'll get into that. Atheism Plus is you know, like an organization, a subset of regular atheism, where they're trying to espouse good values. Their goals are benevolent. You know, they're trying to espouse egalitarianism, equal rights for men, women, the different races, blah blah blah. You know, equality is what they're all about. But really, their main focus is about feminism. And the charge that's been levied against them is that they censor and they block people, and it got so bad that actually Matt Dillahunty had to address it, and he went there, and long story short, they ended up blocking him. But he felt positive. Like then he started talking with them, and they were supposed to make some reforms. Since then, unfortunately, but Matt Dillahunty was hopeful for the future, hopeful that they were going to implement these changes and improve themselves. And I can safely report that they have not changed at all. They are just as bad, if not worse, than what we've been hearing about them. They censor dissent completely, and they attack anyone who disagrees with their preconceived beliefs. And I can understand them blocking sexists, racists, and other trolls. But I actually registered there, and I made like a total of like maybe 14 posts or so. And they blocked me for a week. And then they blocked me again for another week. It was absurd. But let me talk about at least two specific instances where I was treated very poorly by these people. And actually, the first instance, to give a little background on it, the discussion was about why there aren't many black atheists. And a question was posed to Richard Dawkins, and he gave a pretty good answer that was very politically correct. And I wanted to add to that, so I wrote the following. I like Dawkins' answer. He's essentially correct. I would also add that blacks have historically been denied the proper education they deserve, and there is definitely a correlation between education and irreligiosity. Many blacks are also still very poor due to the social inequalities hoisted upon them, and there is a positive correlation between poverty and religiosity. The poor also tend to have more children than the rich, so this turns into a vicious cycle. So of course there was nothing bad about that, and anyone who knows me of course knows that I fully support blacks and their rights. I made several videos in defense of them. But this one moderator called C-Polk writes, that reads like you're trying to mattress stitch disparate findings, and it's weird. Black people in the USA have long been denied quality education, but the reason is racism, not religion as you attempt to say. I never attempted to say that. Religious black people can't be blamed for this. I never blamed them. Black people in the USA have long suffered because of social inequalities. What a deluded way to put it. But the reason is racism, not religion as you attempt to say. I never said it wasn't racism. In fact, I clearly said that it was racism, and I never actually blamed it on religion. I never did. Religious black people cannot be blamed for this. I didn't blame religious black people. And the poor do tend to have more children than the rich. But calling it a vicious cycle is again blaming black people for their struggle. No, I never blamed black people. I'd like you not to blame black people. Of course, she constantly strawmans what I'm saying. For the shit that they have to deal with in the future. Regardless of your intent in the above message, the way you put your message together was rife with logical fallacies. No, there was not. And bad rhetoric. Yeah, you should talk. Please be more careful in the future. Now, this post did not sit well with some other users. And he or she, whoever this is, wrote a few other messages. And then someone named Yellow Submarine came to my defense. The person said, "You have misunderstood Enigma's post. This is almost the exact opposite of what Z meant." And I'm guessing Z is like a gender-neutral pronoun. And then the moderator flippantly replies, "No, I'm illustrating how Enigma," you know, it doesn't even matter what this person wrote. They just wrote back a flippant response, completely ignoring the concern and defending their irrational assessment of what I said and all their strawmans. Then someone else, who was not pleased with how this moderator was treating me, said the following. This was written by No Myth. "Cpoke, not only are you wrong, your posts are rude and you should apologize to Enigma. As several others have been politely telling you, you have inferred things that were not implied. You said multiple times that you have read this or that, but unfortunately that was not what was written. You were rude, you were wrong, and you were being childish by not admitting it and apologizing." And of course there were a few other posts where the moderator is very flippant and dismissive and never apologized to me for being rude and strawmanning me. But I let it go. I did not even respond to that because it was so absurd and it was so obvious that this moderator was not going to back down and was eventually going to use his or her authority to just censor me or censor any dissent. So that was the first incident. The second incident is actually where I eventually got blocked for a week. And then they blocked me for a week again. Oh man, it is so ridiculous. Now, to give some context to this discussion, this was about the sexualization of females in media and whether or not it's hypocritical for a woman who sexualizes herself to then go and criticize sexual depictions of females in media. And there were two separate issues. Like there was an issue of whether or not it's hypocritical for a woman to wear a bikini on the beach and then criticize sexualization in media. But that was one thing. It's very different than sexualize yourself in a public area, right? I mean, like if you're on a beach, that's different than just being around town trying to flaunt your sexuality. So I wrote a post, and it goes as follows. "It seems to me to be two separate issues that don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. You are, on one hand, supporting a woman's right and freedom to choose to wear whatever she wants. That's separate from how women are depicted in media/fiction. However, I would definitely see hypocrisy if a woman dresses provocatively in thongs, short skirts, whatever, and then criticizes over-sexualization in media." Now, there was a big discussion afterwards about that. A lot of pushback. I'm not going to talk about every single post. I'm just going to summarize that people were not happy with me accusing a female of possibly being a hypocrite, which is fine. But that's what discussion's about. But a moderator who, and this guy is the worst guy on these forums. He calls himself Submore, and he has this ridiculous icon caricature of himself with a beard and a ponytail. So I'm assuming he's a dude. Whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that he gave me a moderator notice, and he actually sent me a warning through the private messages because he was so angry with what I wrote. That really benign message, that post that I made, just expressing my opinion, that I could see hypocrisy in certain situations, he gave me a moderator notice for it. He said, "You are stepping on toes with your unchecked privilege. Stop it." And that was his warning, because he didn't like what I had to say. So he gave me a moderator warning for that. You're not going to change my opinions by threatening me with blocks, Submore. So then there was some more pushback. A lot of people didn't like what I had to say, which is fine, but, you know, then I should be able to respond to those arguments, right? I should be able to respond to criticism. So then eventually, I did write back. And I addressed some of the arguments. And one of the things that I brought up was I wanted to bring up a point about how sexuality and objectification, because their main issue seemed to be about objectification. And my contention was that you can't separate objectification and sexuality. And the main thing that was precipitating my belief in this was a CNN report that I read several years ago, which actually proved that when you view a sexual image, you objectify it in your mind. And there was evidence, clear scientific evidence, that you do this. And I wrote that, but I didn't cite it at the time because I didn't think it was really necessary at the moment. But I was more than willing to cite it if someone asked me for it, or someone asked for a little bit more proof. Instead, a moderator who didn't like what I had to say blocked me for a week, saying the following: "Enigma Hood, you have been warned before for saying that sexualization necessitates objectification. If you don't get what that's for blah blah blah." They blocked me. They blocked me for a week because they didn't like what I had to say, because I thought that sexualization necessitates objectification, even though there is in fact scientific evidence that when you view sexual imagery, you do objectify it in your mind. There's scientific evidence for that. So they blocked me for a scientific for something that's supported by scientific evidence. And I would have been more than willing to post the citation if they actually gave me a chance instead of just blocking me. So eventually, and you guys can read the whole discussion, I'm going to post everything in the description. After a week, I wrote, "I'm not sure what the point of blocking me was." Blocking me for a week was, "You're not going to coerce me into agreeing with you by blocking me. If you wanted censored dissent, you should have blocked me permanently." And then I go on to point out, the best way to discuss these issues is through reason and arguments. And I was more than willing to change my position, but you're not going to coerce me into doing it by blocking me. It's a very puerile way of argumentation by, "I'm going to block you unless you change your opinion." Like, what the fuck is that? You're never going to get anyone to change their opinion. You honestly think I'm going to do that? And if you wanted to censor dissent, you should have just blocked me for good. And then I go on to cite my source, and I'm going to put that in the description as well, so you can check it out. It's a CNN article, very good article, which actually demonstrates that sexuality, when you view sexual images, okay, I talked about that already. So I back up my arguments, and I state some more arguments, and there was some more pushback. Some people they had some interesting points, actually, some good arguments. And I highlighted some of those good arguments, and I also highlighted some of the bad arguments, because that's how it works. If there are some good, salient, cogent arguments, I want to respond to those to see if there's any problems with my argument. And I made another post. This was my last post before they blocked me again, where I addressed some of those issues, and actually was entertaining some of their hypothetical situations. Of course, this did not sit well with Submore, our good buddy who likes to censor everyone because he's a child king. He does a quote block and then summarizes everything I said with a very condescending and flippant description, just saying everything I wrote was just words, implying that I didn't have any cogent arguments at all, without even explaining why he thought that everything I wrote was completely nonsensical. But apparently you don't have to back that up if you're a moderator there. And then he just said, "Hey, way to go to pick up a conversation you already got banned for. We told you to take your ass to LNA, wherever the hell that is. And if you thought that this was off topic, which it isn't, then why didn't you just move the conversation?" Anyway, that is the last I'm going to be posting there. So this idiot blocked me for a week again. But no, that's not how you debate. That's not how you discuss things. You don't censor one side of the argument just because you don't like what you hear. And you know shit is bad when the moderators are actually being very rude, disrespectful, and actually flaming you when they're telling me to take my ass to this place. Yeah, you're flaming me. I was actually flamed by several other people. You can read the whole discussions. There were other people that were flaming me and being very rude. But I always treated everyone there with respect, and I was very polite. And I was very tolerant of their rather inimical response to what I was saying. And, you know, it's a real damn shame that this had to happen, because I'm not going back there. And after that last post I made, it seemed like some people were more receptive to my arguments, and they did point out some issues that I wanted to address, and I'm sure they wanted to hear what I had to say about them, but I'm not going to do it now, because you're stifling one side of the argument when you're blocking me for 1 week over and over again just because you don't like it. That's not how you do things. You're taking away my ability to respond to the criticism that I received. That's not how you do it. What is the point of that? That is incredibly frustrating, especially when the debate, the argument, was actually gaining some momentum and was becoming interesting. So they won't be hearing from me again. I'm done with Atheism Plus. And actually, you know, this is a very, very bad thing, because I find this criminal in some ways, because their goals are very benevolent. And they are undermining them by being these zealous, fanatical, censoring child kings. These moderators are some of the worst moderators I've ever come across. I mean, like I said, you know shit's bad when the moderators are flaming users who are being nothing but polite and courteous to other people, just expressing their opinions. And it's such a shame, because like I said, the goals are so benevolent, they're so good. There's nothing wrong with wanting equal rights for women and other races and things like that. But you're alienating people. Now, it's like, if I wasn't a better person, if I wasn't a better guy, I would fucking hate these people, and I would fucking hate feminism. Because they really are giving it a horrible name. And this actually leads me to believe why so many people hate feminism. Because you have people like this that really give it a horrible, horrible outlook, horrible perception to the outside observer. They have not changed Matt Dillahunty. You know, Matt Dillahunty tried to instate or tried to get the ball rolling for some reforms. They have not changed. They really are just a bunch of child kings that have been given just a little bit of power, and then they go crazy with it when they have just that tiny bit of power over other people. They're censoring and blocking anyone that disagrees with them. Like I said, I can understand if they're blocking sexists and other bigots. That's perfectly acceptable. And you can spot those people from a mile away. But when you read my posts, you know, like, even if you don't know me, but you guys know me, right? You know how much in favor I am for women's rights and so forth. But even if you didn't know me, from those posts, you knew that I was coming from a good place, and I was simply just expressing my views. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want anyone except people who just accept their preconceived biases and their viewpoints, and they don't want to hear any dissent. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you the truth about Atheism Plus. It is, you know, it's what you probably already thought about them. Unfortunately, it is all true. Anyway, post in the comment section what you think. This is Enigma Hood signing off.